This man came in every week because he loved the pie my mother made, and he ordered a piece of blueberry pie, and he said to Richard, "Have a piece of pie, it's delicious. I come here every week when I'm in town." And Richard said, "Oh, I can't. I'm not allowed to have pie." And he said, "What do you mean you're not allowed to have pie?" "No, my mother bakes all the pies, and I'm not allowed to have anything like that." So the man said, "I'll buy you a piece." And so my mother went by while he's eating the pie, and she said, "Richard?" And I stopped and looked at him. And he said, "It's all right, Mom. Mr. So-and-so bought me the pie." And she was so embarrassed. She said, and she apologized to the man and said, "Oh, that was so nice of you, but he knows what his rules are." That's just as it was when we bought it. Had a candy department and other candies in jars, all hard candy you could buy, and they had all good cooks, women cooks. And then we got so busy that we had to move because the 5 and 10 were moving there. So we had to get out, and we chose a place across the street. That was when things were booming in Willimantic. Set up the same way, ice cream fountain, only they could serve people at the bars. And many a cup of coffee. Thank God I don't say I spilled. I was in the 7th or 8th grade when my parents bought the restaurant. My mother started working for the restaurant to earn extra money, so she worked afternoons through the supper hour when it would be busy. But the restaurant was very small, and then they had sandwiches and coffee and that sort of thing. Mrs. Halleck wrote a lot of the menus by hand in her book, and then she gave the book to my mother, and my mother always had them typed, so our menus were typed each day. My mother was great in the restaurant because she soon learned how to make the recipes for the cakes and the pies, and learned how to do that, and then kept adding different kinds and would do different things. So she improved the restaurant. That's why when Mrs. Halleck wanted out, she sold the business to my mother. And then my mother kept adding another meal, and they got into more food and whole dinners, but they were quick dinners, dinners that you could run in and not spend 3 or 4 hours. A lot of men liked it because they're on the road. We used to get a lot of fellows, salesmen, would make a point to wait until they got there to have their dinner because the food was always dependable and good. And so that's how we got into the restaurant business, really.
Trouble's just a bubble, and the clouds will soon roll by.
So let's have another cup of coffee.
Let's have another piece of pie.
When they made enough money through the restaurant, they had money to buy the property at the Cape. And we used to put up our tents on Mr. Bell's where he lived. And so my father wanted to buy a little piece of property. And he said to my father, "Pace off what you want, Bill, and just give me $50. And that's unbelievable today. So my father did. He didn't take quite an acre. We never needed any more than that. So we could walk up to the beach and go swimming, and we didn't want 5 or 6 acres. We just wanted a place to build a house. Well, when we used to drive from Willimantic to the Cape, it took us 6 hours. But that was because we had an old car. One time we had 5 or 6 flat tires because we were using old tires. And we had a tent for our family that had 4 cots in it. And my Aunt Evie came, and they had 3 cots in theirs. And fellows built the table, so we ate all our meals outside. And we always had plenty of water because the neighbors who had a big well. And then we'd all get together and we'd all stay up and sit and talk around the big table out there, and then when it got dark, most of us would go to bed. Kids were sent to bed anyway. It was a nice place to go and relax. It was good and healthy, and my mother and father loved it because they were just so busy in the restaurant. Dead tired, they'd go home. And then when they got there, it was one whole week they didn't have to work. Doesn't sound exciting, but it was. The first house was cute. It was just 3 rooms, a kitchen and a big living room and 1 bedroom. And we had a red pump in the sink. That was my favorite thing. And you put it right on the sink so you didn't have to carry water anymore. You had real water, running water in your kitchen. You had to pump it. That was a big thing. That's all we ever owned until my mother and father bought the tract across the road where they built 4 cottages to rent. And they had a good living coming out of that for a while. You know, I think they used to rent them for $15 a week. Like that. Money was different in those days.
Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long.
High school was okay. I didn't have a ball, but I had a good time. Went to the dances. I managed it and then went on to 2 years to college after. The ugliest one. She was my friend's side of me, so she looked just as bad as I do. I always thought she was the prettiest girl in the class. She doesn't look so pretty there either, does she? One of my best friends was Jimmy Timmons. He turned out to be a gay guy. We had a lot of fun together. We used to draw and paint a lot. He did a lot of artwork. This is Mayo Cohen. He was the brightest, probably one of the brightest ones in our class. He used to date all the girls, but when it got time to marry, he found himself a nice Jewish girl. She was too. She was a nice friend. She's still lives on Cape Cod somewhere. I had an art teacher who took me to Boston to show me an art school that she had gone to, you know. And it was one of the nicest trips I ever had going with her. And I was interviewed, and they would have been happy to have me, they said, but I could go, yeah. So I didn't go. It was out of the question to pay for college education. I taught school for 7 years. I don't think I would have been a teacher if I'd had any other choice, but it meant that I could go on further to school after high school. So I guess that was good for me, and I didn't know it. I always use it as an excuse instead of getting mad. I was real mad for a while, but I got over it. My brother wanted to fly. He got to fly, which made me grow up thinking, oh, well, boys are always better than girls. They always get something much more, and that's not true, you know, but it depends on what your parents can do at a time. And